Good morning, everyone. May I have your attention? My name is Jim Britton, and I'm your 2022 Space Coast Association of Realtor President. Wow. I was just going to say how awesome it is to see such a turnout first, but then so many familiar faces. So thank you. Let's get this started right. If I could ask everyone to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I'm going to try to be brief so we can get to the meat of this. Everybody, I know there's a buzz, the excitement and optimism about our Space Coast. And obviously our Economic Development Commission has a huge part in that. So I'm really super excited to introduce the next speaker. But before I do, I want to just tell everybody now at the end, if there is any questions, in case you haven't seen them, you have to line up at the back podiums there and ask your questions. And so the other thing I just feel urged to say is we have sent out marketing for 3 weeks with Linda Weatherman's photo on there. And I'm not sure why we did that, because we actually have the expert in these presentations. I have heard our speaker 3 times already this year, and he's so detailed and informative. I'm excited to hear what he has to say. So if you allow me just a minute, I'd like to read a little bit about our speaker this morning. So his name is Brian Baluta. Thank you. And he brought to the EDC 2+ decades of strategic communication experience, including service with 3 members of the U.S. House of Representatives, the U.S. Department of Justice, a U.S. Senate candidate, and Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval. Skilled in the planning and execution of integrated
So if you want to mute this one, can you hear us?
I was saying it's always a pleasure to be with the realtors for a couple of reasons. One, on an organizational level, the EDC hasn't had a better partner over the years through bad times and good. And you know, as we look at these success stories during the presentation, you should all feel collective pride because you can take some ownership in that. And two, on the individual realtor level, you all are in the front lines of our economy. So if there's a newcomer, more often than not, it's a realtor who's welcoming them to the community. If you're on the resident level or a commercial level, right, you're helping people double down on their investment in Brevard County. So I like to do these presentations for realtors because I feel like you can be the evangelist for the gospel of the Space Coast, right? And it's a good time to be spreading that good news. So a word on this title. As I was thinking about how to describe this moment that we're experiencing on the Space Coast, I actually I took a page out of Morgan Stanley's space team. Bear with me for a second here. And I borrowed it with respect to how they describe the current space economy. And I realize the Space Coast is not just space, and we'll get into that. But in terms of one big aspect of our economy, Morgan Stanley's space team puts the global space industry currently at about $380 billion annually. And their projection, their conservative projection, is the next 18 years, it's going to triple. And more than likely, it's going to quadruple to about 1.4 trillion annually. And as you look at this presentation and you see how well positioned we are to capture a bigger piece of that growing pie, I think it should make everybody pretty excited. And let's say they're off and it only doubles. We're still in pretty good shape. So we're coming off back-to-back years of record-setting launch cadence, right? And this is traditionally, for the first 70 years of the Space Coast, this has been our bread and butter, and we're doing more of it than ever. So you've had SpaceX and United Launch Alliance account for this. And the projection now, and you'll see why, by the end of the decade, we're going to be doing 100 launches a year. So this year, we're probably going to eclipse the total from the past 2 years. We've got a launch today at 11:14. There's another astronaut launch on Saturday, and it's only going to get busier. So that's good news for us because we employ a lot of people doing this, right? And here's a big reason why you're going to get up to 100 launches a year. You've got the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, investing big money into creating what he calls Starbase 2. We were a little worried that was going to happen down in Texas in Boca Chica, but it turns out that's where he's going to blow stuff up, and this is where he's actually going to launch stuff, right? You've got the Boeing Starliner. We're looking forward to a successful test of that this year. That's actually a spacecraft that's manufactured here on the Space Coast. You've got Astra, a new commercial launch provider. Blue Origin, we'll talk a little bit more about them. SLS and Artemis, you've been seeing the wet dress and rollout of that. Pretty exciting to actually see that live on the launch pad. And we're looking forward to a uncrewed mission to the moon, which I think is going to bring a lot of that old school Apollo excitement right back to the Space Coast. ULA just announced one of the biggest launch contracts ever for Amazon Web Services. Blue Origin is going to be doing that as well once they get the New Glenn rocket up and running. Sierra Space has been spun off from Sierra Nevada Corp, and they've got a little unmanned shuttle called the Dream Chaser that's going to be launched here and recovered at the old shuttle landing facility. And Relatively Space is investing a lot in a launch complex at the Space Force Station, and they're going to be 3D printing rockets of various sizes. You can see some of their offerings there. So this is just a taste of what's on deck, but pretty exciting. And 11 years ago, after the last shuttle launch, who could have foreseen this menu, right? I mean, it's just mind blowing. And the big paradigm shift and what's driving our new economy is we went from the place for launch, and with a few exceptions, most satellites and spacecraft and rockets were made somewhere else, transported here, and we launched them. Now we're making all this stuff, which is great because we can employ PhDs to GADs doing that, which is a special thing for an economy. So you've got at the Cape, you got Blue Origin. OneWeb is making micro satellites up there for a constellation. We'll talk a little bit more about Lockheed. Terran Orbital is a big announcement as well. Jacobs is making stuff for all these companies, and then I mentioned Boeing with the Starliner, as well as X-37B, and they moved their Space and Launch Division headquarters here from Arlington, Virginia. So it's a pretty exciting time. As my boss, Linda Weatherman, would say, this was a 15-year overnight success. So it started with the announcement of the retirement of the shuttle, and we had a little fair warning, but we really had to circle the wagons as a community. And the EDC took the unusual step of actually reaching out to the companies that would likely produce the successor to the shuttle. And at the time, it included Boeing and Lockheed and Northrop Grumman. And they all agreed to, if they won the contract, to not only launch, but produce their spacecraft here. Lockheed got the contract, and that really got us on our way in terms of saying, hey, we're not dead yet. We're still here. We got a lot of brain power, and that can be leveraged for the next generation of spacecraft. And over the last decade, and these are just EDC project announcements, so we've added more jobs and CapEx in addition to this, but you can see, even during some lean years, 2010 and 2011 were really the nadir of the recession, as well as the last shuttle launch. But this is a who's who of companies, big and small. That $2 billion CapEx over that time period is as good, if not better, as any metro area in Florida. And we're a fraction of the size of these major metro areas, so we really punch above our weight. I'd like to use these 5 companies as a good illustration of our new economy, right? So in the past, they used to say if Washington, D.C. sneezed, the Space Coast caught a cold. Now we've got good diversification even within our core industry, right? So we're very dependent on space and defense, but if you look at these companies, you've got EMBRAER, manufacturing, executive jets. Also, they've got their Skunk Works here, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Lockheed Martin, we've got spacecraft manufacturing, we got Fleet Ballistic Missile headquarters, which relocated from Sunnyvale, California. Northrop Grumman's employing over 5,000 people in Melbourne at the airport, working on the next generation stealth bomber. So that's not the Bat plane, that's a B-21 Raider. We've got Blue Origin, L3 Harris, obviously a long-time stalwart here, and they're just getting bigger and better. So within these 5 companies, and there's lots of suppliers and B2B companies supporting them, you have good resiliency in your economy. And another aspect of our economy that's given us good resiliency is we make a lot of stuff, right? People talk about the United States not making anything anymore. We make everything from not only all the space equipment, but medical devices and semiconductors and building supplies and pleasure craft and you name it, it's made here in Brevard. So because of that, we've got 2 to 3 times the manufacturing concentration of other cities in Florida. And why does something like that matter? Well, we just came out of a 2-year pandemic, and manufacturing jobs were considered essential critical during that time. So rather than people being out of work or losing their jobs, they were making money. And when things started to open up again, they had discretionary income to spend on restaurants and retail and hospitality and, oh, by the way, houses, right? And investing back into their businesses. So this is a good thing for our economy. The Milken Index, and so it's not just Florida and locally that we're moving the needle, looks at the best performing metro areas in the nation, right? And they look at a lot of different economic metrics. And so to give you some perspective on our current ranking, from 2018 to 2020, we moved 47 spots into the top 10. And then from 2020 to 2021, we actually moved from number 10 to number 2. And now the latest ranking came out. We're still top 5, which we love. And the competition is pretty stiff. So in that time, Austin, Texas, got Tesla's headquarters and another gigafactory and stuff like that. So you're happy to be in the top 5. Phoenix, Seattle, Salt Lake, Utah's doing very well out west. But you look at that, number 7 in job growth, number 8 in wage growth, still top 10 in high tech GDP. These are all very strong fundamentals. And as Milken has pointed out in the last 2 rankings, that they think our economy is really built to last, which is a great thing, right? You don't want to be a flash in the pan. And speaking of the pandemic, this is what the job growth looked like during that time. You can see when everything shut down in March, you really had a whiplash. And to give you some context, during the recession and retirement of the shuttle, we went close to 12% unemployment, but that took like 4 years. In this case, it took 4 weeks. But the great thing is we've got you don't want to test the resiliency of your economy, but we had a test. And you can see we passed with flying colors. So that those peaks have all surpassed the valleys. And we've not only recovered all the jobs that we lost, but we've added quite a few since then. And I think everything that made this a desirable place to live and work and do business has just been turned up to 11 during the past 2 years. All right, so I'm going to basically show how we run into the problem, and I talk about this stuff all the time. We have too much good news to share, right? And that's a great problem that you want to have. So what I did is I looked at the last 6 months of 2021, and it was just announcement after announcement after announcement. So we'll start at the December 21st and work our way back. So I was talking about EMBRAER. EMBRAER just announced that they're hiring, I think, another 120 people. They're going to be doing a job fair today, I think. And they're up over 1,000 employees, right? This was one of the first announcements that we made when we were really struggling, right? And they started at about 250, and now they added it almost 1,000 since then. But the other good thing, and this is the long game of economic development, right? They put their skunk works here. So they've got a bunch of smart people working on innovative ideas. And out of that came a company called Eve. And Eve is working on electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, or basically air taxis. And right now they're designed to be piloted. Eventually they'll be autonomous. As the father of 2 daughters, I'm all for any sort of autonomous transportation, especially cars and whatnot. But so in this case, they're going public versus by a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company, and that's become very popular in aerospace. They're going to be traded on the New York Stock Exchange. It's going to be headquartered here, and you look at that valuation, $3 billion valuation. They're going to have a lot of cash to be able to do what they want to do, and that's a great thing. And it's a good example of how you get one win, success breeds success, and before you know it, you've got another company out of the deal. So. It's a good reason to support economic development and understand that it's all incentive based in terms of you have to perform, right? If you don't bring jobs and capital investment and things like that, you don't get this, and this is going to pay for itself and then some. So it's a good example of how you play that long game. We mentioned Blue Origin the same day that the Eve announcement came out. Blue announced that they're up over 1,000 employees. They're actually closer to over 1,200 now. So you get the second richest man in the world investing $1.5 billion in our community. And the exciting thing about that is Blue Origin is the whole cycle, right? So they're going to manufacture the New Glenn rocket. The rocket will come off the assembly line. It'll go to their big launch complex at the Space Force Station. It'll take off. They have launch control. They have mission control. So you may have heard me say this before. No longer is it going to be Houston, I have a problem. It's Merritt Island, I have a problem. Well, hopefully there will be no problems, but yeah. But and then they'll recover the rocket, they'll refurbish it, and they'll do it again. And that's the refurbishing also employs a lot, right? And you'll hear SpaceX talk about this now. They've gone from manufacturing rockets to building a fleet and managing that fleet now. And that's why they're expanding their X hangar at the Cape. And you're going to have a bunch of Falcon 9s all lined up, and they're, it's like managing airplane fleet, right? But it's rockets. So that's the same direction that Blue Origin is headed, and it's pretty exciting to see. Also, a new wrinkle in space is the space tourism, right? And Florida is pretty well versed in tourism, so we always like to see more of that. But the exciting thing about the Space Perspective announcement, which was a few days before, is that they're building their headquarters and operations and manufacturing facility here. And we like those manufacturing jobs, as I mentioned, good wages, good numbers, and it's pretty exciting. So what Space Perspective will do is they've got this gondola. So if you've seen in Vegas, the View or the London Eye, those Ferris wheels, same type of deal. There's going to be a bar and a bathroom. And you won't experience weightlessness, but you'll see the curvature of the Earth and all that. And so that's We actually saw them advertising during an NFL game recently, so it's pretty high profile. So that's, again, diversification within the space industry. Titus Space, great news. A couple days before that, went public the old-fashioned way with an IPO. If anyone's familiar with Craig Technologies, it's Carol Craig's company. They spun off Titus, had a great IPO. I think shares started trading at $5, went up to $12, so a good $200 million valuation. And they're offering what they call space as a service. So they're going to 3D print microsatellites, have a constellation, whatever you need to use those satellites for, you can do. Obviously, the NASDAQ likes the business plan. And pretty cool thing is I think out of 3,500 companies on the NASDAQ, 30 are headed by women. So that's Carol Craig is a big accomplishment there. A lot of I always say there's just a lot of cool people doing really cool stuff on the Space Coast, right? Terran Orbital, prior to that announcement, you had the governor here at the Space Life Sciences Lab announcing what will be the largest satellite manufacturing facility in the world. So, the tipping point has been reached, right? We're here. 2,100 new jobs, average annual wage of over 80,000. Again, they're going public via SPAC, $2 billion valuation. They're gonna have a lot of money to do what they need to do and scale up. So this is, we've got manufacturing jobs, engineering jobs, headquarters involved. It's always good to have those decision makers close by, right? And it's that center of gravity, makes it harder for them to leave. And this is a good thing. More diversification for our economy. So prior to that announcement, we had Gen H2 announced they're building their global HQ in Titusville, redeveloping some existing industrial buildings into a manufacturing facility that works on, it's basically hydrogen and gas infrastructure. So interesting thing about this, their largest client is the state of California, and they're doing everything here, right? So. And this is a good, ancillary kind of business that spun off from the space industry. The founders were involved at the Cape, and now they're doing this for transportation. So pretty cool to see that happening up in Titusville. Prior to that, you had EMBRAER announce delivery of their 1,500th business jet. Not all of those were manufactured here, but all of them since the factory opened up were. I mentioned you went from 200 jobs now to over 1,000, and we got another company out of it too. So that was a pretty good ROI. L3 Harris is our big Fortune 500 company. To give you an idea of how important having them after the merger stay here. You've got a global headquarters, 2 division headquarters. They've since consolidated more operations here. Even during 2020, during the worst of the pandemic, they added 550 jobs, and they're still hiring. So I mean, just such an important part of our community and our economy. You all as investors in the EDC have helped keep them here, and we should all feel very good about that. Over the summer, Lockheed Martin opened up another manufacturing facility. So they took the old Astronaut Hall of Fame Space Camp and turned it into a facility to produce the spacecraft that'll take the first woman, the next man to the moon. That's a pretty cool history for that building. And one of the exciting things is they've said they see it as having life beyond just Orion, which is the current Artemis moon mission. And that's a great thing because they see the factory as being an important part of their business operations, right? So if you have a chance to see it, it's pretty cool, pretty prominent there right before the NASA Causeway. And that's become kind of an interesting neighborhood up in Titusville because you have the Star Center, you've got Boeing Space and Launch Division headquarters, you've got Lockheed Martin Fleet Ballistic Missile headquarters, you've got Astrotech, which is owned by Lockheed Martin. They're going to be doing more work in terms of bringing in payloads, getting them ready for launch. So that whole area around the what's been called Space Coast Regional Airport is, I think, really taking off. So you're going to see, I think, a lot happen around there. Also, some diversification for our community and our economy. This is a high-end firearm manufacturer that announced they're moving from New York to Titusville. This is Darkstorm Norm, their unofficial mascot. He's got a big social media following. And when they announced that they were moving to the Space Coast, we said, hey, you should put Norm in a spacesuit, and they did. So. But we actually have we've got a bit of a firearms cluster on the Space Coast as well. So you've got Kel-Tec, you've got Knights Armament, you've got DSI. They'll be breaking ground, I think, in the next few months. And again, more manufacturing jobs. We love to see that. I think you all have probably seen this metric, and economists actually use this. UHAUL tracks where their trucks and trailers are leaving from and where they're going to. So, not to pick on California, California actually ran out of U-Hauls. So if you wanted to drive a U-Haul to California, they'll probably pay you. But we're now up to the #3 destination on the U-Haul migration study. And again, kind of along the lines of the Milken Index, we went from 23 in 2020 up to 3, right? So I mean, you guys are seeing this in person, but the data, supports it as well. So that's a pretty impressive metric. And then we talk about punching above our weight. This is the rankings of the top master plan communities in the country in terms of sales. And Viera is now up to number 13. And prior to this, I was living in Las Vegas, and 2 of the top 10 are in Vegas. But to give you an idea, Vegas is a metro area of 3 million people, right? We have 600,000 people, and we're right there in terms of sales. So it's that demand is, I don't think, going away even with the changing interest rates. Another thing we like to see, right, because we're creating all these jobs, we need the talent to fill the jobs, and some of that's going to be homegrown, and the EDC has taken measures to help cultivate some of those production skill sets. But the world's just not making enough engineers and doctors and healthcare workers and CPAs and whatnot, so we need to attract them as well. And so this talent attraction metric by AMC actually looks at migration. So things like that U-Haul metric help in this regard. We'd like to be higher, and I think we'll see that number go higher, but it's good to be in the top 25. And I think a lot of you are probably seeing people, relocate here for opportunities, right, and for jobs. I certainly know in my neighborhood in Viera, I think everybody works for Northrop Grumman or Lockheed or Boeing or L3 Harris, and they all came from somewhere else. They're loving life here. With that change in the economy and all these high-paying jobs, whether it's production or engineering, you're really going to see the look and the feel of mixed use, multifamily, residential, retail, restaurant is all going to change. Some of these are online. You look at the Highline Apartments in downtown Melbourne have really proved that there's a demand for that sort of urban living. North American Properties is building the Luna and Viera Town Center. They're also working on a downtown Melbourne project. You've got the Fly-In Hotel at the airport, coming online. Space Coast Town Center is building multifamily in West Melbourne, just west of 95. You've got Emerald Lakes teed up for all around the southern part of the county. Really from top to bottom, you're going to see a lot of new offerings. I think Cocoa Village just showed the latest renderings of that new hotel that's slated. So, I've always said that the Space Coast has great bones, right? We don't have one downtown, but we've got Titusville, we got Cocoa Village, O'Galley, downtown Melbourne, the beachside communities, and we've got an opportunity to create new town centers, but also to do urban infill that enhances our existing downtowns, and that's what you're seeing as well. So I think the whole look and feel of the Space Coast is going to be pretty fresh in the coming half dozen years, really. I mentioned talent attraction. The EDC is doing its part to help lower the threshold for recruitment. And we've created a number of digital assets that I think will be of value to you all. And we're actually in the process of putting the finishing touches on a realtor toolkit. And it's going to have all these assets that I'll quickly go over. But there's, in the case of Live Big Space Coast, you have all our investor career pages surrounded by a lot of lifestyle content. So there's great videos of young professionals enjoying the lifestyle that Space Coast offers. There's a lot of blog content regarding family priorities, dining out. It really, I think, puts our best foot forward. So that, feel free to use these videos. And I think the great thing about if you have people who are moving here for job opportunities, maybe it's just one spouse and the trailing spouse needs a job. This is a good place to find these job opportunities because we've got more job openings than we have people right now. Within the content of livebigSpaceCoast.com, we actually came up with a little content marketing campaign. And the joke was when we were doing this, because it was kind of oriented for engineers, is that if you made a Venn diagram of engineers, space geeks, and beer geeks, it would be one big circle. And so we came up with this hook that, where else can you watch a rocket go to space while drinking a beer brewed by a rocket scientist? And all our breweries were started by engineers. So they're really smart people who are making really good beer. And so the point behind this was also to, we've got paid digital and we've got a marketing budget, but we wanted to have something that had legs beyond the EDC. So we've gotten earned media out of this. We've gotten organic traction on social. And then the Tourism Development Office really likes it too. And there's a lot of overlap between talent attraction and hospitality marketing. And so we're now working with the TDO, and they're helping us with this to do a Launches and Loggers Spacecraft beer and spirits passport. So it's going to look like a passport. You go around, you check off the launch, and then you visit the breweries and the distillery that we have now. They'll stamp it, and then you're going to get a Launches and Loggers mission patch, right? So it just, it shows some of the fun personality that our community has, because we're competing with the Austins of the world in the Bay Area and other major metro areas. So who else can do this, right? Nobody else can claim that. Which is kind of a fun thing. We mentioned production jobs. We also have a social media campaign on what we call C Manufacturing Through New Eyes, or CMFG. And with this, a lot of people have misconceptions about manufacturing jobs. They think it's grease in the face, blue collar. But if I showed you the EMBRAER production floor, and no offense, it's cleaner than this conference room, right? I mean, it's pristine. And they're really STEM jobs. Everybody's, your parents want their kids to have, worthwhile careers. Well, they can do that through manufacturing. They're going to get good wages, good benefits, continuing education. So we're trying to change perceptions. And this is as much about influencing parents and grandparents and other mentors as anybody else. But that's another way the EDC is trying to sustain our economy. Kind of a third aspect of talent, which I think goes overlooked sometimes, and it's a secret weapon, I think, for the Space Coast. We've got all these wonderful people that are brought here by our military, and those are service members and their military spouses. And we want to employ the spouses while they're here, because they often have great skill sets and postgraduate degrees, a really good talent pool. And then we want to kind of capture those service members as they're separating from service. And we do a pretty good job of that. Brevard has about 11% of the population are veterans. So we like to have those people working in our community, making it better, taking civilian jobs. And so one of the things that we did this past year with a number of military spouses who helped us was create a military-friendly guide. And that's on our spacecoastsalutes.com. And we actually, the Space Coast just won an award from the American Defense Communities Association. So we're a great American defense community. We're one of 5. And a big reason was the military friendly guide, which helps families when they're being posted here to get situated on the ground, find places to live. They don't all live on base, right? And get plugged into the community, find volunteering opportunities, churches, you name it. And a lot of the spouses have said that they wish that they had this in other places that they've been around the world. So pretty satisfying to come up with a good work product like this that is not only helping our military families, because it's the right thing to do, but it also has a big economic impact on our community as well. And this is, I mentioned the Great American Defense Communities Award. That was just announced recently, and they're actually going to come here and do a lot of video shoots. So we'll have video, showcasing what a great place this is for military and veterans. And to that end, the economic impact of our military footprint here currently is about 1.3 billion annually. Nothing to sneeze at. And we want to keep what we have and want to increase that footprint. So it was just announced by the Air Force that they're doing a strategic basing process for what they call the Space Training and Readiness Command for the Space Force. We're going to get Delta 10, which is a modeling simulation outfit. So that'll be more personnel, more budget, but we're going to compete for the HQ as well, which is something that we want to do. We were a finalist in the U.S. Space Command process the other year, and that was good. We were happy to be in the finals, but I think we've got a good better chance of getting something like this. So it's not going to be as public as U.S. Space Command was. They didn't really make anybody happy in that process, and so I think this will be more behind the scenes. But we're going to be doing what we can to help land the HQ and build off the Delta. One of the things that if any of you attended the annual meeting, the EDC is undertaking what we call a community of choice initiative. And that's really to take our talent attraction efforts and retention, frankly, to the next level. So what we're going to be doing, and SCAR will definitely be involved, is kind of taking inventory of all our stakeholders and residents about, what does it mean to be from the Space Coast? What is it that you love about your community? These are some of the questions that'll be asked during the process. And we'll be doing focus groups and surveys and things of that nature. But are we culturally confident, right? If you've heard me talk before, nobody's more culturally confident than a Texan, right? If you talk to somebody from Texas, even if they're in New York or wherever, their goal is to get back to Texas, because why wouldn't you, right? I think we have reasons to be culturally confident, and we need to foster that. Is this a place people dream of leaving or returning to? As a dad, I hope, when my girls grow up, that they see a future here, right? And I think, people who, if you're your grandparents, right, I think you want to see that your kids' kids are going to see a future here. And that means it's a vibrant, dynamic community, right, which we all want. How would you describe the Space Coast to an outsider? I think, despite starting to rise up these rankings, we're still flying under the radar a little bit, right? I don't think even people in Florida necessarily know all the Space Coast has to offer, right? They know Cape Canaveral maybe, but we're a 72-mile long county that's got a lot of different options for people depending on their taste. So you'll be hearing more about this in the coming months, and we want you to be engaged, active partners in that. And the reason for doing all this is we're going to take all this internal data, and we'll do some surveys outside of the county as well. But we want it to be the basis of a real place branding and marketing campaign that transcends the EDC, right? So it's going to be an open source thing that the realtors can use, the chambers can use, anybody in the community, employers. I had a boss that used to say, well, we need some gang colors, right? So it's more than just a logo and a tagline, but it's something that we can kind of embrace. I'd like to see it be t-shirt worthy or hat worthy, where there's some sort of visual that that people can say, I'm from the Space Coast, I'm proud of it. So that's a pretty exciting undertaking. I think everybody's ready to do it. We've gotten good feedback. The timing's right, but I think if you don't brand yourself, you're going to get branded by somebody else. We don't want that to happen. So, like I said, always happy to be with the realtors. I'm going to take questions now from people in the audience. We've got some folks online as well. I'm just going to take a question here from the chat, if that's all right, Jim. Sure. Let's see. Are the Seminoles building a casino? So this is this is where Brevard being a tight knit. This is where Brevard being a tight knit community. Rumors spread really quickly, and I remember I think last year, my new neighbor had moved in and he heard I was in economic development. And he's like, so is Vera getting a Hard Rock hotel? And I was like, I haven't heard that, but and this rumor is spread around, and now it seems like there's something to it. So I'm taking my EDC hat off, and the location is moved around, so we'll see. But I mean, not to comment on that specifically, but the context I always like to provide is Florida is going to grow. Central Florida is going to grow, and we actually have the economy and the room to accommodate growth, right? Because we're sort of triangulated by other major metro areas, and we're a community of 600,000 people. So, we're getting the Margaritaville, right? I think you're going to see a lot of different amenities, a variety of stuff coming in. So that's not out of the realm of possibility. I'll also preempt the other question that I tend to get every time I speak is, are we getting a Highline station? The train going from South Florida to Central Florida. So, their business model is to move people from South Florida to attractions in Central Florida because they say it's a little too long to drive, it's a little too short to fly. So that you've seen if you've driven up and down our county or to Orlando, the amount of infrastructure that's gone in, and that's a huge capital investment. So they really need to get their current business model going before they can add a station for a place that's close. But they say it's very easy to add a station. So I think 5 years out, you could probably see one in Cocoa. What would make the most sense, right? For access to the port, get in the airport, park and ride. But by all accounts, it's a pretty nice way to get around. They've got some different levels of tickets, reasonably priced, food and beverages included in some of them. So not a bad way to get to South Florida from here too, which I think just enhances our community more, right?
Hey, Brian.
Hi.
I was hoping you could give us a little update on what you know about the aquarium coming in by the exploration tower.
So I believe the state appropriations, if I'm not mistaken, passed the legislature, and it's just a matter of making the final cut. But it's got broad support from the community and the Space Coast delegation. I think it's you look at the track record of the zoo. I mean, the zoo is a perfect example of what it means to be from Brevard, right? It's all something we take pride in. It's been a source of whether you're a company or an individual, people have supported it and made it better. I think the aquarium ties in the lagoon, which is such a central part of being from Brevard, right? And it's going to have benefits for researching and helping the lagoon as well. So I think the case for it is very strong, and I think it's only a matter of time before we get there. But the renderings look amazing, right? I mean, it's just what an asset that would be. And then you consider it's going to be catty corner to the second busiest cruise port in the world. So that's a pretty good location for attracting people from outside of Brevard as well. But I think some of the budget requests should have a pretty good chance of going through. We're still going to have to raise money as a community to get it across the finish line, but that's a good thing. Let's see if there's. Yeah, actually, that's what a comment in the chat box just said. I'm happy to make that available. Absolutely.
Yeah, it will be posted on the spacecoastmls.com website by today or by today.
Yep, absolutely. And that was the other question on chat as well.
No other questions?
Oh, those crystal lagoons. Yeah. The question was, do you have any information on what's called crystal lagoons? So one of the developments I mentioned, Emerald Lakes, is planning on having one, and I think there's some other developers that have talked about putting a few in. It's a proprietary technology. Linda calls them a cement pond, but they look great, right? I mean, it's this huge sort of organically shaped pool that you can build communities around. And there are examples of them in Florida, and they're water efficient and they're crystal clear, and you can do stand-up paddleboarding, and other water sports on it, and just swim in it as well. And there's wave sections. So by all accounts, we're due to have a half dozen of them, it sounds like. So, but I think it's whether it's that or Hard Rock or anything else, because the economy is so strong here and people, smart money is taking notice of that. You're going to see, people were clamoring for a Trader Joe's, things of that nature. We got the Costco. I think it's the second biggest Costco in the country right now, and that's doing well. So, and frankly, Costco is going to be a magnet for other amenities, right? So, the jobs come first, and then everything else comes after. So.
Yeah, just so the Zoom can hear everybody, please.
Hi. Okay.
Hi.
So everyone wants to know about PF Chang's, Cheesecake Factory, Top Golf, anything. Have you heard anything? What do we have to do to get that?
Well, I think we're doing it, right? And you look at a master plan community like Viera, they're halfway built out, right? So we think about all the development that's happened there. What they have on deck for the next half is even bigger. But you look at these jobs. So take Blue Origin for instance, up to 1,200 jobs. I think the average annual salary of those jobs is over 6 figures, right? So developers like North American Property is a good example. They're doing the Luna. It's being designed to capture young professionals. They're out of Cincinnati. They do stuff all over the country, but they were looking at the growth in Florida and particularly the Space Coast, and they decided to make their Florida headquarters in the Space Coast. And they're coming in a big way because they're seeing the same data that we are, and they're going to be looking to bring more amenities as well. So we're seeing a lot of capital investment. The demand is there. I think we're seeing a lot of interest on the industrial side, and that's really what the EDC does, right? We're not brick and mortar when it comes to retail and restaurant, things like that, but we provide the conditions help cultivate the conditions for success. So honestly, I've lived around the country a lot, and I've seen the reputation of a place change overnight. Like the Space Coast is there, the fundamentals are sky high, and honestly, I think the next 5-6 years, everything that people are clamoring for is going to be here, because the economy is doing so well. And it's right. We all know it's a great location. I mean, it doesn't get any more prime than that. And what's the maxim, right? Location. So. Yeah, please bring a Cheesecake Factory on the chat. We also said, what's the best way we can get more involved in the EDC? Well, through SCAR is as good a way as possible. I think if you're interested in being involved in SCAR's participation in the community choice effort, I think probably contact the team here. That's I love hearing from you as well. So feel free to shout out to me, because I think like I said, you're on the front lines, boots on the ground. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions or looking for find something online. And we're going to roll out with SCAR that realtor toolkit real soon. So that'll be a good tool for you. Based on current inventory of homes being so low, is there a plan with builders, real estate agencies, and Space Coast for more homes? Obviously, the jobs are coming. I think the builders, if they had access to the building supplies that they needed, would build them. So there's obviously some supply chain issues, but the demand is here, and we've got people from all over the country moving here, number 3 destination. So I think if you look at some of the prices that we're all seeing, that's the number one thing that beyond any sort of central planning we could do to get more inventory. But I think we'll see some tapering off with the interest rates coming up, and then there'll be an opportunity to recalibrate and get more inventory in line. But certainly, if you talk to Todd Pacriva, he'd be happy to build as many houses as possible if he could. All right. Well, appreciate the opportunity. Always, like I always said, always good to be here.
Wasn't that fabulous? I left my notes, but I just wanted to add something because they're too humble. Think about this time frame that we saw on the slides, 2010, 2011, and go back to where we were at that point. They're doing this, thank you. The EDC did this on a small town budget. And it wasn't until I attended and heard what Linda and that team was doing, very creative with very little amount of funds. And what they've pulled off is when you go and attend and listen, is nothing short of amazing. So I know you thanked them, but we thank them again for a wonderful presentation and all the work that they do and taking the time to come. Thank you. So like we said, in case you missed it, the presentation that you just saw will be posted on the spacecoastmls.com website. It was great seeing you all. Thank you all for coming out, and the meeting is adjourned. Have a great day. Yes, you did great.